Things that scare me, I should just fall. Sad needs change. There's so much younger to stand and do. By the way,
hello, everybody. Is everybody taking their seats? Everybody had a great day.
And then Draymond Green and also China. And so, yeah, so
Fireside chat interview style. And to check out all the booths today and also the awesome cosplay gallery over there. So next, I would like to bring up our 3 core people who founded Imagine Talks and say a few words of welcome. We have Rose Chung, the founder
and Edge Interns. Symposium. Today, these delegates and wonderful friends bring you...
Let's get the crowd going up here, right? Today, field electricity. So, and thank you very much.
What I really hope to happen today, aside from getting inspired and empowered by the talks up here, that you guys all connect with each other, empower each other, and go out there and make that social impact. Thank you so much for being part of this.
All right, thank you so much. It's great always hearing from Francis, Vince, and Rose. So let's get on to what we've been waiting for. We have an amazing journey created for all of you. We'll be exploring, so I'm just going to give you an on stage, have just amazing stories, and then you're going to come back here for our second session, which is the Reflections of Society, which looks at our world and how we will break for lunch for an hour, have as individuals, and how we should really share those gifts with the community, with society, to leave a better legacy in the universe and beyond. So then we have another 20-minute break, and we were going to conclude with our final session called Celebration of the Arts. This is a celebration of artistic expression, creativity, and how these people have used these arts, gifts, talents that they have been blessed with, and how they have touched other people and can inspire you, tell you what I do outside of Imagine Talks. So please come and talk to me, and I'd love to hear your story. So are you guys ready for our first session? Let's get this room of who we are. We have and the words of wisdom they want to share with us and impart. So it is my honor and great pleasure to introduce one of our first speakers of Imagine Talks, a personal friend of mine, a great mentor. Spencer Christian, as many of you guys know, is the anchor and weatherman of ABC News. He is also the author of You Bet Your Life. Instead of waiting until April when his book is out, you get a personal view today of what his story was really like. And I've heard his story, it's very powerful, it's very meaningful, and it's very insightful. So I'm so honored to share with you in person his story. So without further ado, I give you Spencer Christian from
Thank you. Okay.
Microphone is off.
Okay, it's off. So, how about now? I ever even imagined. As Katie pointed out, I am the weather anchor on ABC 7 News. In fact, long before I came to the Bay Area. Since I am a weather forecaster, I'm happy that we are greeted this morning by a nice sunny day. One of the, he said, dream of things saying to us is, imagine. And now, over the years, because imagination, poverty, and racism, Virginia. I was born in 1947, so I'll be turning 71 this year. And I grew up under or seeing movies and documentaries about it. It's called Jim Crow. And all of the states in what we call the South, and each were not able to grow up under this system their entire lives. This picture was that and the indignities that we faced in the Jim Crow South, and how did I achieve something special in life? These instilled traditional Christian each night after dinner, who, by the way, in his eye had. So we'd watch the news, and my parents would say, look at the progress being made. It became a better place for me. So when I was in college in the late 1960s, I watched this incredible change that was going on in our society. The civil rights movement, the women's movement, student activism. Young people were demonstrating against the war in Vietnam and be a part of the media that was them. I was stationed in Richmond, Virginia, which had been the capital of the Confederacy. Excuse me. I got the job and believed that this was happening, that my dream. I started as a news reporter, and about 2 years after I started on the air doing news, the news director, the manager of the news department came to me one day in a panic, and he said, "Our weatherman has just quit." And I talked knowledgeably about weather, even though at that time I wasn't a trained meteorologist. And within a short time, the ratings were, and I said, "Oh, no, I do news. I don't do weather." And he said, "We could just about double your salary." I said, "I'm a weatherman." So I've imagined that would take me on this incredible journey. Within a few short years, late 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, and it was more than a dream come true. Here in 1993, I'm interviewing Hillary, interviewing Muhammad Ali, the greatest, who became a friend of mine. Here I am with my buddy Oprah. This is a more recent picture from about 2008. We became friends over the years. Wang, who was the co-host of ABC, I've met and interviewed lives. And I have found that most of the people who achieve their dreams, who make what they imagine reality, are people who have these basic sound values, much what my parents taught me. However, I didn't live just happily ever after reaching this problem life. Once I reached a certain level of prominence in my business, I got about the late 19... More frequently I gambled, and the more money I put into play, as they say in casino, the more the casinos were offering me complimentary treatment, luxury suites, first expensive recreation, all the great shows and in the casino all night, staying up all night, gambling. And I started to fall into a deep, deep pit of debt. I knew that this was because my pride got in the way. I was embarrassed. I didn't want the public or my friends or my colleagues or even my family. I finally reached probably the lowest point in my life in 1999. At ABC was building a new team, so my contract was not going to be renewed. It wasn't a bitter parting of the ways. I was certainly, but it was just time for me to move on. I was very fortunate. ABC 7 here in the Bay Area, which is an ABC-owned station, was aware that I was available and offered me a job here. So I thought, okay, I'll leave the network, I'll go back to local news, I'll get myself back together. But I still had all this gambling debt. I would estimate that over a period of about 25 years, I probably lost $3 million. And I was in deep, deep debt. I had taken out as many mortgages on my house as I could. I was still supporting my family, things that on the surface looked like responsible behavior, taking care of my family and my loved ones. But I had this that one big win, one winning streak that could turn things around. But the more I pursued those losses, the deeper the debt became. So now it's the end of 19. My wife informed. She didn't say the only reason, but it certainly was. A person of faith, still give up. I just finally, not many years ago, about 5 years ago, my daughter, I mentioned that this one aspect of my life was spiraling out of control. My daughter confronted me with, "We hope you can turn your life around." She said, "I'm going to have children someday. You're going to be a grandfather. Do you want your grandchildren to grow up knowing you as a gambler, as a man who squandered everything he had worked all his life to attain, a man whose family and career can get it together, Dad, because this, my core values." This is a picture of me dancing with my daughter, by the way. That's Jessica. This is a picture of me holding my firstborn grandson, Noah. So I was being haunted by her saying to me, "You shouldn't let this be the thing that defines you and defines your life." And I remember walking out of that casino and going up to my hotel room and getting down on my knees and praying and asking God to please, getting this mother from ABC in New York. I remarried. So I walked out of that casino, I turned to God, I called my daughter, and then I called my wife. And I said, "I think I'm finally ready to give this up." So she and I had this long soul-searching talk. She reminded me of the imagined talks I had told her I had with my parents. She reminded me of the gambling. And all of a sudden, I knew that it was not going to be a part of my life anymore. It was like a single day in which I decided that I was going to imagine a different outcome, make it happen. We were all away. And finally, the lessons that I learned from my parents' Imagine Talks, I began to recapture the good life ahead.
On Amazon, physician leader in digital health from Stanford. I was able to meet with her earlier, and you know what? Beautiful soul inside out. And I'm so excited to introduce her because she's 3 times. How change. Today we get to hear about how she's developed herself, her journey as a healer, and what some of the life lessons she has learned and passion to contribute to the community. And
all right, good morning. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes. All right, I hope everybody's had their coffee. And Spencer, what a wonderful and inspiring talk that was. It'll be a really tough act to follow. But I'm absolutely thrilled to be here with you today. And I can't wait for all the other exciting talks and connections that are going to be made today with the additional speakers and wonderful people here that we get to meet. Before I begin, I just want to take a moment and really pause and reflect at the point in history where we are today. We're at a really interesting point right now where it's been nearly 100 years since women gained the right to just now realizing the mistreatment of women and girls. Difference is all the more relevant today. And I'd really like to thank the organizers of this conference, not only for the opportunity to speak with you today, but also for highlighting these issues and for allowing us to meet each other and to empower each other as we continue on our journeys. So a little bit of time talking about how we might empower each other as we do continue along on our journeys. So I'll start today by sharing a little bit about myself, and I can just share a few things with you today. They're going to make you stand out as you're pursuing your dreams. And lastly, sometimes opportunities come by and they might not look like, and so sometimes taking the risk and opening yourself up to those opportunities really leads to some incredible opportunities. So hopefully today I can share those themes with you, and I can also help you enjoy those twists and turns, because they're inevitably going to come as we all girl growing up in the Midwest. They were just minor illnesses, but I was in and out of my pediatrician's office all the time, to the extent that I became pretty Shaundra, I'm supposed to be there, and you have to take this medicine. But what I really remember forward to going to the pepper hunter, or maybe a doctor. So that was that. And so I continued that dream. I really like science, even organic chemistry. I was that student. But I was going to become a doctor. And like many people, so in order to achieve that goal, I started doing what any good pre-medical student would be. I started checking all of the boxes for pre-medical applications. I did research, I volunteered in a hospital, I wrote a few papers, I spent time getting to know people and hearing about their experience as physicians. I was a biochemistry major, I studied chemistry, I really thrived in that. And those prerequisites were great. And they're prerequisites for a reason. They taught me the knowledge that I needed, and they taught me the academic stamina that would really sustain me through medical school. But when I think back about what made me an interesting applicant for medical school, it probably wasn't the fact that I checked all the boxes that all the other pre-medical students had also checked. It was the passion for medicine and for connecting with people that I had actually developed during some of my travels during the summer in between all those pre-medical classes that I was taking. So in college, I met my best friend, Jessica. And Jessica was a world in the US. I had traveled to some of the national parks, but really hadn't had the opportunity to leave the country. And I was hooked. I loved learning about cultures. I loved trying to speak. That next summer, I decided that I was going to go to the Philippines alone, and I was going to volunteer. And that next summer in the Philippines, absolutely, I saw disparity, true in studies, Native American reservations and the like, that are like this. These are some of the tuberculosis hospital that summer, who was raising 9 children alone in a public bathroom in conditions worse than this, and was trying to nourish them on the water that her neighbors had cooked their rice in. I met young girls that were just a few years younger than me. And I was just really heartbroken at the differences and the opportunities that the world held for both of us. Here I was having the opportunity to travel abroad and to apply to medical school the next year, while they were thinking about if they should try and meet and marry a full escape the extreme poverty that they and their families had endured. And I was just incredibly motivated. I went to the US that fall, and I was stocking up on supplies before school was going to start again. Standing there and thinking, there are 17 different brands of laundry detergent from which I can choose. And I have 17 different laundry detergents available to me 24 hours a day, and it's always going to be. Really, really struggled. I felt helpless. How am I going to give back to communities around the globe? I have to keep furthering my education. I had really found this incredible purpose that was beyond the interviews. I'll tell you the questions that they did not ask me. They did not ask me about valence electric, my understanding of fluid dynamics or lack thereof. What my interviewers really wanted to know was why I wanted to be a doctor, that I could actually change the world. When I was in the Philippines and what I saw, the people that I saw there, opportunity to have and be able to impact everyone that I was going to be able to treat in the future. And I was lucky enough to get into Stanford for medical school, and I found it an incredibly fostering environment while I was there. I learned more than I ever could have imagined that you can learn in 4 years. But I really couldn't shake that experience that I had in the Philippines. And frankly, I didn't really want to. In school, I really struggled trying to find the right specialty. Have a really check all those boxes to become the perfect surgical applicant. And I started doing that. I went to departmental education, learned as much as I could, and at Stanford. By incredible physicians, and they were really the best at their craft in the country. And I found my dream career. I felt like, you know what, I'm going to be operating until I'm 75 years old. This is my track. I'm going to be on this exact path. And that was all well and good for a few years, until 2 years into my surgical residency program, I realized that I actually wasn't that happy. I really respected and admired the people around me. I thought what we were doing was important and valuable work. But turns out, you know what, I actually prefer for my patients to be awake, which is kind of a funny thing to recognize 2 years into your. So I remember thinking, what am I thinking? I have this incredibly competitive position, and it's a wonderful opportunity, but it really didn't feel right. So I left, and I moved up to San Francisco, and I started working at UCSF, still seeing patients in their surgery department. But I was really trying to figure out what my next step would be. Opportunity would come by, because it just didn't really seem like that. I ended up introducing me to an investor in the healthcare space, who in turn introduced me to physicians across the country if they weren't able to visit. This seems interesting. They seem like a really nice team. Why don't I try and just see if I can help them? And I was hiring a team. And over the next few years, I actually thought that I would have to support customers completely, out of my comfort zone. And I learned so much because of that opportunity. And after I'd been at the company in San Francisco, it seems like everybody ends up working for a technology company at some point or another, opened up my mind to the fact that I could actually impact the world and affect patients in a positive way outside of the hospital walls. And the truth is that opportunity sometimes comes around and doesn't necessarily look like the thing that you thought that it would look like. And if you take that risk, you can actually learn quite a bit from it. So that's my career path so far. But I'd be remiss along the way. It hasn't been all roses, and I think that some of it can feel as we're going through these growth and development parts of our career. So first of all, I want to share with you, you can share your ideas, you can make your voice heard, you can stand up for your patients with this. It seems like an obvious thing, but growing up in the Midwest, and the culture really was, if you don't have anything nice. My career, when I was younger, I'm in front of somebody this way, and you know what? We are right, and we do study hard, and we do know the right answer, and we can stand up for our patients. Strengthen your backbone, if you will. Because, working with really intense, demanding surgeons, but those really demanding, smart surgeons expected me to have an opinion. They expected me to know the right answer. They expected it of me. Why didn't I for myself the first time? But it is something you have to practice. Second, surgical residency program. How did I have me? And I think the truth is, it's a combat. It doesn't always feel that. Is that so that I gain the confidence in my learning? I think this is something that many people, especially young women, really, or that they don't feel like the expert that somebody else might think them to be. But the phrase, fake it till you make it, is not a famous phrase for nothing. And I think that everyone feels this way, and frankly, people who don't feel this way, at least sometimes, are probably a little bit too overconfident. So if you feel this way, use that self-doubt to motivate your learning, to motivate you to take those risks and those challenges. I hope what I've shared with you today is one way to get there. Following your unique passions and the things that really make you excited about your goals will make you unique as you continue along your journey. And also, sometimes those opportunities and the really best learning experiences don't look like what you think.
Thank you so much. So we have our last segment for this section. Very excited to introduce her. Sometimes as that. Rosa Li had a perfect plan for herself. She went to Stanford University, Northwestern, London School of Economics, some of the most renowned and powerful schools in the nation in the areas of investments and finance. Well on her way to becoming a Wall Street powerhouse and having an amazing, strong, six-figure or more salary, but passion of hers. You can see behind me what kind of business she has immersed herself in. Rosa is here to share with us her journey. She now has her tea featured in 30 stores, including Uber and Square, and she's now working on a contract with Whole Foods. So please join me in welcoming our next speaker, Rosa Li, founder of 2 tea businesses, Tea Crush, the first ever sparkling tea, and Rosa Li Tea, a purveyor of
Thank you, Katie. Can you guys hear me okay? Yes. Great. All right. Persian philosopher from the 13th century, Rumi, once said, "There's one thing we must all do in our lives. If we do everything else but that one thing, most people held down to the same jobs their whole lives." In my examples, my US and where she came to the US. In my generation, at least I'm on multiple careers. Take my life as an example. Right after college, I decided I went to China, rural China. For lending, I wanted to learn hardcore finance. Got myself a job. I was learn what happens after the mergers and acquisitions. At doing something on the operating side to basically explore a lot of industries and a lot of different professions. So during school, I worked part-time with various Silicon Valley startups. I also offered my skill sets to a number of startups after school, both domestically and internationally. And finally, founded my bang. Not only have I switched people in business school and how to live a meaningful life. Well, the problem of addressing passion isn't about something you're bad at. Passion when you go in. So it's a great place to go when you know exactly what you want and you know exactly what you want to get out of school, but it's a terrible place to go if you are just trying to figure out what you want to do, like me. So thanks to the paradox of choice, after I graduated a decade too early, went traveling around the world and worked. It's shown tremendous growth in recent years. E-commerce, in my mind, was gonna in Thailand, that's expanding to Singapore. While doing more, spent some time with me in exchange for a cup of coffee. 4 months in, I felt I barely had any friends. Couldn't really hang out with my old finance crowd who pretty much traveled to private islands on the weekends. Community because. So it was just really hard to do any sort of entrepreneurial thing in a conservative market. I also didn't speak any Thai and found Singapore too small to live in. So then I decided to buy another one-way ticket to China. Every single startup wants to expand to China, right? But no one has really succeeded in expanding there. So I actually convinced a Chinese friend of mine to work with me on an e-commerce platform that basically sourced US-made baby products, or rather, baby products from the US branded, and sold them to Chinese moms. The idea is a sound one because, Asian parents, they really care about high-quality baby products. They're willing to splurge anything on their kids. We actually launched the platform and marketed via WeChat. But neither my co-founder nor I was really willing to commit the next 5 to 10 years. Order of magnitude different from what US companies are really. And somewhere in between, I had the idea of starting a sex toy company. Not just any sex toys, high quality, luxurious, ergonomic, and beautifully designed sex toys. So after about 8 months of trying months of exploration, and happens to be one of the top researchers on finding one's calling, a convenient fact I didn't know before, wrote me this: your future sits heavy on your shoulder. So I decided to have, so that's the topic of this talk. What I'm trying to say is finding a balance in organizational behavior and confuse complexity. So I had to step away and lose myself in the ordinariness of life in order to perhaps find myself in an extraordinary place after a while. Oftentimes we have to work for money so we can pay rent and feed ourselves. And every once in a while, we get lucky enough that we find ourselves lost in our work because we enjoy it so much. It gives us a greater purpose. So if we get good at it, we may actually find our passion and calling. In choosing what I wanted to spend my time on, I had one criterion. It has to be something that I personally love and enjoy in all its tediousness and glory, beyond just human love. Well, every day, I spend 100% of my attention on the food I'm eating when I eat them. So I honestly do not get tired of thinking about food and beverage 24/7. After my business school years, I would find myself at tea shops and cafes, tasting all sorts of tea and learning the art of brewing tea. And when I returned to the US, I started brands of exotic loose leaf teas and selling them among a small group of people, mostly friends, which then turned into a Kickstarter, an e-commerce platform that to make tea more fun and convenient in one bubbly concoction. So feel free to come find me. 2 flavors. My first 2 flavors is matcha coconut pulp with Japanese green tea matcha, no added sugar, so better than expected. So we just list. Needless to say, building a business. I can't say that I found my calling yet, but I know that mission to provide something innovative and healthy and help people live a happy and healthful life. Franco in Man's Search for Meaning said, when you dedicate your life to something greater than yourself. Well, I challenge you today to get lost in. Maybe it is building products, helping customers. It could be as simple as working with numbers. And perhaps, enjoying the search and exploration along the way. Thank you.
Our 3 speakers for this morning's section: Spencer Christian, Dr. Shaundra Eichstadt, and also Rosa Li. So mention that again, Rosa Li has her table, so please make sure you guys try her teas. They were delicious. So,
Assistant Kathy, come on, excited. 3, Imagine Dogs! All right, want to do it again? That sounds fun. All right.
Please